Welcome. We're glad you joined us today at Heart of a Father, where we're just embracing His love for us. It's so good to know that our Father loves us, that we get to abide in Him, identify with Him, and out of that place of confidence produce lasting fruit. So once again, I'm here with my good friend Steve Sizemore. Steve, welcome.
Thanks.
And it's good just to be in this journey of discovery, where today we've been talking about calling and what does that look like in release into ministry. So Steve, just jump into that for us.
Yeah. So the whole idea of release into ministries, for some of us, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. For someone else, to release into ministry, what in the world are you talking about?
Sure.
Am I like chained up somewhere and I get set free? No, it's not a negative thing of being chained up and being set free, release in that way, but it's like being launched, maybe it'd be a better word than release. But the release piece, you think of a rocket blasting off, it has to break free of the Earth's gravitational pull. And so it's straining to get outside of that. And that, another way you could see that, you have to, for us as followers of Jesus, sometimes we need to break free of status quo. It's like a gravitational pull in our lives. So it's not that status quo is always negative or evil. It's just that sometimes God may be wanting to release us or to a different level, to another place of responsibility in His kingdom. So when we think about release of ministry, it's really about growing in my opportunities, growing in my responsibilities of service in God's kingdom, whether or not it's recognized by men or not, and that you get these advanced titles. It might include some advanced titles, but that's not what we're talking about today. So there's a quote that sort of helped me, and it ties back into what we're talking about with calling a little bit. And as far as I know, my research, John Wesley said this. I didn't know John Wesley personally. I know I look old, but I'm not that old.
You're not that old, Steve.
John Wesley said, "Do not seek after ministry, but anticipate the fruit of a disciplined life."
That's rich.
So that's from a long time ago, and so they can just swing past us really quick and go, "Oh, I don't know what he meant by that." So do not seek after ministry. You think, okay, forget the ministry thing. No, that's not what he's saying. Do not seek after ministry, but anticipate the fruit of a disciplined life. So one thing that tells us, first of all, is that ministry is a fruit. Okay? So analogy I've used at different times is like you've walked through orchards.
Yes.
And prior to those, say an apple orchard, prior to those trees having apples, you didn't hear them grunting and straining and chanting, apples, apples, oh, apples. They weren't meditating on pictures of apples, but they were working. And most of it was hidden. It was underground. Their roots were seeking out the nutrients, the moisture, etc., that tree required in order to prosper or flourish. Because can't even say the word horticulturalist. I can pick apples maybe. But as far as I understand, there's a direct correlation between the health of the roots and the health of the fruit. Or if the tree's even going to bear fruit. And so the roots are active, and as they're successful, then the tree flourishes. Of course, there's the sun and the temperatures and things like that. There's other factors. And so he's saying, hey, don't seek after ministry. Don't stand there looking for ministry. But he's saying, let your roots go deep. That to be the disciplined life. Let that be a significant part of your focus of disciplining yourself to put your roots deep in your relationship with God, going back to the belonging. Go deep in Him. Let your roots go deep in Him. And then that's going to nourish all of your life. And eventually there'll be a fruit, and that fruit will be called ministry.
Yeah, that's good. I just want to reiterate the power and the importance, Steve, of that putting roots down. It's interesting your timing in bringing up that analogy, because I actually purchased 2 apple trees this last week, and I'm getting ready to plant them later today. And they say one of the most important things is to actually dig a hole that's 3 times the size of the root ball. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's a lot of work. But that root ball is probably almost a foot in diameter. So that means the hole ideally should be almost 3 feet wide and at least a couple feet deep. And that's because they talk about it's so important for those roots that have been balled up to then really work their way in through the dirt. So just the power of putting our roots deep in Jesus and anticipating the fruit, as you talked about John Wesley quoting, of a disciplined life, and that takes work.
Yeah, and so when those apple trees get loaded up with apples, people, you're thinking, no, one person, Steve, not people. Bob is going to pick those apples. But imagine you're an apple tree out in public
Absolutely.
somewhere. People are going to walk by and pick an apple
Yes.
and eat it. And that's ministering to them. It's like you're just loading up, and there's ministry available to people. And after you get cleaned off, all your branches are cleaned off, you think, my ministries. No. Just keep your roots deep. More apples will come. Thinking about the contrast, what you're trying to do is you're going to create the most healthy environment you can for these apple trees, because you don't want me coming back next year saying, what happened, Bob?
Right.
Those little twigs out there don't look like trees to me. So you're going to really root for those things, and you're going to do the best you can. But
Yes.
you've seen a tree growing out of the side of a cliff, like just solid rock all around it, and somehow there's a tree sort of
Yeah.
coming out. There's a Grand Canyon. There's a place I took a photo of a tree like that, and you think, okay.
Wow.
And that success is dependent upon what? Those roots found a way.
Yes.
Those roots found what they needed.
And if you're going to lean on that type of tree, you want those roots to be strong and
That's
embedded
right.
deep.
Yeah. So this whole thing of what John Wesley's talking about is, hey, the critical piece of being successful or being released into ministry and bearing fruit is to have a disciplined lifestyle to taking your roots deep in Jesus. And so we're not going to break that down right now as far as all the practical ways we would do that, but that might be something to talk about sometime. But letting our roots go deep in Jesus, really go deep in belonging to Him. And then that'll bring about the fruit, which will be an expression of what we're calling ministry and serving others. And so we'll look. I want to. If we have time, we'll try to do it right now. So think about ministry.
Yes.
What does ministry look like? And again, that word is like, people think ministry. Oh, minister. A pastor. But all of us are ministers.
That's right.
All of us have a ministry. It's just we minister to others. And it's the idea of ministry. To minister, it's all of us are called to minister, to be ministers and to be involved in, quote, ministry. And I understand there's the laity and all that stuff, and professional or vocational ministry, etc. But just as followers of Jesus, and you think about a phrase that has stayed with me over the years is the first ministry is a really obvious ministry. Again, Jesus is inviting everyone who follows Him to this ministry, and it's a ministry of being a servant. So those of you who are watching say, I never wanted to be a pastor, and you can take a big sigh of relief. You don't have to be a pastor. But Jesus is calling you to be a servant. And so it's almost like anything we do in life. If we're a pastor, we're a servant pastor. If we're a leader of something, we're servant leaders. If we're a husband, we're servant husbands. We're servant parents, etc. And that's a title, that's an assignment, that's an invitation, that's a call that's going to stay with us the rest of our lives. Because He said the greatest in the kingdom will be the servant of all.
Yeah, and what an invitation.
Yeah.
The greatest in the kingdom will be the servant of all. And it's easy to focus on the part of wanting to be great, but there again, we focus on the relationship side of that and just saying, man, I'm going to serve others. There's no better ministry than that. And that's a shift, though. That's a shift from the way that we, in our culture, and especially in our church and religious culture, tend to think. And so may we embrace that shift and that mindset to really understand the heart of what ministry is about and being a servant of all.
Yeah.
So what I know is we're going to continue this conversation, but for today as we pause, what's one way we can begin to apply that to our thinking or our everyday life?
Well, going back to the quote of, do not seek after ministry, but anticipate the fruit of a disciplined life. I think it'd be a thing of just opening our hearts before God and saying, God, what needs to shift in me and my priorities, or what actions, specific actions, change of attitude, whatever, what shift in me do I need to make sure my roots are going deeper in you, and they're getting the attention that they need, that I'm focusing on my roots going deep in you. And that could be a daily discipline of time with God, time in the Word, time in prayer. It could be a discipline of being with others in small groups. Just ask the Holy Spirit to show you, how do I need to put more emphasis on make sure my roots are going deep in you.
That's rich. So let's do that together. Just ask Holy Spirit, what in my attitudes, my actions needs to shift this week, and as I go forward in my walk with Jesus, that I can be the servant that God's created me to be, and anticipate that fruit of a disciplined life together. God bless you. We look forward to see you again soon.